Summer is not necessarily synonymous with idleness, but like everyone else, we like to travel and see old friends again, get together for a good aperitif, and remake the world. So when an opportunity arises, we don't let it pass us by. Precisely, the BRICS summit was in Johannesburg. Cyril Ramaphosa, the host of this 15th edition, gathered the hardcore of the Five Colors Club Minister Narendra Modi, Brazilian President Lula, Sergey Lavrov for Russia, and the rising international star Xi Jinping. To ensure the atmosphere, he took care to invite representatives from about 60 other countries, including France. Wait, I'm being told in my earpiece that France did ask to participate, but South African President Ramaphosa said no. I'm finally going to tell you everything. Welcome to MoneyVision. The BRICS is the new buzzword that everyone has been talking about for 15 years. The Club of the Five came together to imagine a new world, more adapted to its aspirations and its objectives. This year, the Johannesburg summit had a special flavor, with a little something more, or rather less, the absence of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is facing international prosecution for war crimes. Despite South Africa's support, he would have been arrested immediately if he had set foot on the tarmac. It was therefore his Minister of Foreign Affairs who provided the interim in person, while the president spoke from Moscow by video conference. This summit also had a special taste since the BRICS decided to accelerate their rapprochement in response to Western sanctions against Russia, but above all to rise up against the global domination of the greenback. The whole world was waiting for this new edition, which promised once again economic glamour, geopolitical intrigue, and a diabolical plan to overthrow the world order with rapid growth and the resumption of monetary power. Before the opening of this summit, the BRICS already represented 26% of world production, with 3.3 billion inhabitants who produce the equivalent of 26,000 billion in income, an increase of 50% between 2008 and 2022. With such means, they founded their own international financing institution, the New Development Bank, NBD, with a budget of $350 billion and capable of granting unconditional loans. All this is very useful to help the member countries to complete their economic development and strengthen the prosperity of their population by all means. The number one topic of the 2023 edition was the strengthening of economic and commercial cooperation between the BRICS, as well as the promotion of their respective currencies to reduce their dependence on the US dollar. The leaders also discussed the creation of a common platform for cross-border payments and the establishment of a system for resolving commercial disputes between members. Finally, they reaffirmed their commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation to address global challenges such as climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. The BRICS are ready to propose an alternative to the US dollar, which currently dominates international trade. Initially, the BRICS came together to make their voices heard with international institutions such as the IMF, the WTO, and the United Nations. Today they have the means to overthrow the world order. Since the end of the world wars, the dollar has imposed itself wherever American aid plans have been deployed, gradually replacing the pound sterling as reserve currency and in major international contracts. However, since the end of the convertibility of the dollar into gold in 1971, its dominance has increased, even if it no longer has any reason to be. In addition, the international scope of American laws gives the American justice a right to look at transactions carried out in dollars, even if they take place on the other side of the world and do not concern any American. Finally, the war in Ukraine has highlighted an excessive dependence on the Western financial system, and the measures taken against Russia have cooled the leaders of the countries of the South. The BRICS are unanimous. The dollar enjoys unjustified privileges that oppose their own economic development. They therefore propose a progressive de-dollarization of world trade via local currencies, starting with oil, which has now been quoted in yuan in Hong Kong since 2018 and in Saudi Arabia since 2022. Russian gas has been paid for in rubles since the beginning of the war, and the United Arab Emirates accepts Indian rupees in exchange for their black gold. At the Johannesburg summit, the message was clear: use local currencies, and failing that, the currency of the Chinese leader, the yuan. Each member is invited to accept the conditions of the others to circulate the local currencies and send the dollars back to America. According to calculations, the greenback is expected to decline by 30% by 2030. The BRICS are also expected to present their common currency project, the BRICS-CON, at this summit. Although the topic of creating a new currency guaranteed by gold, oil, and gas was postponed, This did not change the solemn atmosphere that reigned throughout the event. This 15th edition was marked by the same atmosphere that has hovered around all the great moments that have punctuated the history of the world. The newcomers. The summer was an opportunity for the group of southern countries to strengthen its weight as an international power, to redefine its functioning and its objectives. The proposal is so attractive that almost 50 countries, all located south of the diagonal of the end, have expressed their interest. Of these 50 candidates, 6 were elected this year. First of all, Argentina, which dreams of gaining independence from the IMF, was retained. The conditions for IMF intervention are too strict for the country, which has large oil and gas reserves. Argentina also has a high potential internal market, despite social and political tensions, and its membership strengthens ties with Lula's Brazil. The Ethiopian application has also been validated. The country, which was the most dynamic economy in Africa before COVID-19, signed a peace treaty last November, ending 2 years of deadly war in the Tigray region in the north of the country. This agreement remains fragile and ethnic tensions are still numerous, but the country is counting on the support of its new partners to pacify its territory and return to pre-2019 growth levels. Egypt, heavily penalized by the war in Ukraine, was also retained. Her grain imports are severely disrupted and she fears a food crisis. The country also lacks water and industry, and a third of the population lives below the poverty line. However, its lands are home to gold, potash, copper, zinc, lead, and gas, and its indebtedness is unlimited. Its tourism potential is underexploited, and it benefits from significant political and financial support from the Gulf countries. Also among the new members are Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, 2 oil powers that are both influential members of OPEC. Observers now consider OPEC as another tool at the service of the group of southern countries. The kingdom of the sulfurous Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, already the second largest producer in the world behind the United States, is home to the largest company on the planet, the Saudi oil giant. Finally, Iran has been integrated into the BRICS group, which may come as a surprise, but the objective is to ease diplomatic relations with its neighbor Saudi Arabia, which has not existed for more than 20 years. With these new members, the BRICS group now brings together 41% of the world's population, and accounts for 31.5% of the world economy, more than the G7. From January 1, 2024, the effective date of the new accessions, the BRICS will become the new world's leading economic power, but also the world's largest reservoir of fossil fuels, oil and gas combined. What's next? Now that the de-dollarization movement is underway, what will happen? Although the BRICS group seems solid, it actually hides a very relative union, which varies according to the interests and objectives of each member. Although all the members are influential in their respective regions, China has clearly risen as the leader of the group. She speaks the loudest and validates new entrants drop by drop to ensure that she is always heard. However, relations between China and some members of the group are tense. Although relations with Russia have normalized, this is not the case with India. The 2 most populous countries in the world are still competitors in international markets and are even at war. Beijing also does not appreciate the common interest that the United States and India have in each other, especially since India joined in May 2022, the new framework agreement between the United States and 12 countries in the Asia-Pacific region, which China considers as a way to contain it. For their part, South Africa and Brazil do not want to fuel the global divide and cut ties with the G7 powers, because this could attract too much trouble. However, China refuses to support Brazil's candidacy for the UN Permanent Council, which creates multiple differences within the group, especially with regard to the treatment to be reserved for the West. These differences may leave one perplexed as to the common future of the group, but the individual objectives of the BRICS are not incompatible with maintaining good commercial or protocol relations with anyone. We will simply have to be talented when negotiating the currency of future contracts, because even if the Americans or the Japanese are friendly, the rupee needs to regain colors, and Saudi Arabia has already tipped part of its quotation. Finally, the BRICS will have to take up another challenge. Find a new name now that there are more of them. If new color, then we wish them good luck. In the meantime, we will continue to call them the BRICS Plus. The BRICS Club now has 11 permanent members, representing 40% of the world's population and producing a third of the planet's wealth. This group of emerging countries is structured around new statutes and relies on its own central financing institution, the NBD, which does not impose binding conditions when it grants a loan, unlike the IMF. The BRICS are also well provided for in terms of natural resources, with the accession of Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the Emirates, which facilitates access to oil, essential for the development of its members. It is therefore not surprising that many countries have asked to join the BRICS, including all the members of the G20 outside the G7, the other 3 members of the E7, Turkey, Indonesia, and South Korea, and about 30 other countries. The BRICS are now recognized as an official entity, in the same way as the European Union or the United States, but with a major difference. It is a free union for the individual benefit of each member, as long as they do not oppose the others. This approach differs from that of the European Union or the United States, where each member must respect the common rules, even if they are unfavorable to them individually. It is this wind of freedom that accompanies the Chinese project carried by the countries of the South, and that makes it so difficult to resist it. If you want to know more about the history and the foundation of the BRICS, I invite you to consult the links of the videos that I have cited in the description. Feel free to comment, criticize, and share your analysis of the situation in the comments. For my part, I hope you had a good time with me. Thank you all for your loyalty. Take care of yourself and see you soon on MoneyVision.